Okay, let's go ahead and just get started with it. So I had three goals with this initial project. The first being to just make some standard hooks out of nails. The second being to forge a gaff, which in California and in inshore California fishing, oceanic fishing, you're not going to really be doing a whole lot of fishing that requires the use of a gaff necessarily, especially me. I'm newer to all of this, so I'm not 100% confident enough to gaff the fish, but I figured it'd be nice to have anyway. So, and then the third being to make to forge a spoon. The spoon really didn't turn out how I wanted. This whole thing I would call, in totality, a learning experience is a nice way to put it instead of a fail. But in reality, it was a bit of a fail. I'd say that the hooks were fine. The type of bait I was using was not for sure. I was using artificial bait. So yeah, as you can see, I'm just starting off with some basic hooks. I realized that the chair started to burn. It was the first time I had set it up this way. I had it on something else, but I had to switch to the chair. The other thing I had it on was like a old ceramic pot, not the one pictured here, the different one, and that was being used. That ended up being used for something else. So that metal plate underneath though seemed to work just fine. Consistently getting that hook shape isn't incredibly difficult, but it's also something that would require just a bit of practice. You can get it in one swift motion. You're able to do it without needing to constantly reheat all of the hooks after doing it the one time. And so then I just kind of did the ends here, smashed them down. I kind of regret doing it the way that I did it. I wish I would have flattened them the other way. I've seen most hooks flattened the other way. Then I just drilled them out. I center punched them first, back on the anvil, and then just drilled them out. Couldn't find my center drill, and it wasn't really necessary anyway. A couple of the hooks ended up being a little too thin on the top, which I kept them but didn't end up using them. And I probably will. I'll probably toss them. So this is the end result. It's what they're going on. There's these swim lures, these little squid artificial lures right here. And I kind of like how they turned out. And just a quick swim test to make sure that the hooks weren't obstructing like a swim pattern. I really like these squid. They're super cool looking. Their wings actually flutter. It's hard to tell in the video, but they flutter quite a bit. Really like them. I think they looked really good. And as you'll see later, they didn't actually end up working, unfortunately, to catch my target species, which was lingcod. But I did get some nibbles from some schmelt. And then right here, I just did a comparison with an existing octopus lure. Next, I was moving on to the spoon. I didn't have a complete plan of what I was doing. I just knew what shape I needed to make. And so I just kind of started out with flattening the metal, just drawing it out, flattening it. And I figured I'd do most of the actual shaping at the sander. I'd say it took about maybe 10 plus. I wasn't keeping track, but maybe 10 plus passes, like into the forge and out, to get it to what I thought was the thickness I wanted. In reality, because my lack of skill and because of the hammer I was using, I think that I needed to go a little bit thicker because I ended up doing a lot of the thickness shaping as well on the belt sander. I figured that was good enough for a first attempt at least, and went ahead and cut it off and took it over to the belt sander. Yeah, a whole lot of shaping needing to be done. At first I was hopeful it was looking like a spoon, shape-wise. Right there, the dish almost completely fell over and dropped all the water. Right here, still pretty hopeful. I was like, oh wow, this might actually turn out decent. Where I started having trouble was polishing. Firstly, getting it to the thickness I needed. What ended up happening was the material was too thick, and the divots in it were, as you can see here, the divots in it were too deep to completely get the scale out. If I had tried to polish that all the way out and sand it all the way down, it would have left nothing. And I was actually having that trouble with the edges. I was losing. It was creating complete holes through it. So I had to keep making it a little bit shorter, and then I was just kind of comparing it to the overall size. I planned on originally polishing it even more, just the surfaces that were shiny, not the surfaces with scale, the divots with scale. And then I was going to do my swim test here, but I did a test beforehand, and it was really not swimming right. And then when I went to actually record it, the line snapped. It like hit the bottom, cut the line. I lost the treble hook that was attached to it, and I had to very carefully go in and go grab that because family members swim in this thing, so I couldn't just leave a hook in there. Very dangerous. And then finally, the gaff. Again, I'm not going to really get to use this necessarily around Senkow for inshore kayak fishing, for like rock fish and such. Maybe one day, if I'm really confident in my abilities to know how large a fish is and know that it's legal to take. But again, if you're using a gaff, you're going for the kill. I still wanted to just have one, and I knew I didn't want to buy one, and I was capable of forging one. The only thing that really went wrong with the gaff, and I've got more rebar, so I might try again, is I quenched it in water. And I don't think I have video of that, but yeah, I quenched it in water. I should have just let it cool out in the open air. I was being impatient, and I ended up cracking it, actually. There's some cracks. Now, that's not super detrimental for what the gaff is doing. It just doesn't look great to me. I definitely would like to make a prettier gaff with a wooden handle as well. This one I left it the rebar material, that grippy material. It's really working in that hook shape. Using Google images of gaffs just as a reference, but it's a pretty simple hook. I didn't get footage of it, but I actually took it in between making the actual hook and just drawing the material out and getting it kind of round. I took it over to the sander and I just kind of completed the roundness of it. Got it more round, more round, more round. And then proceeded to actually get the hook shape. Yeah, so and then right after this I quenched it, unfortunately. And then that's the finished product pretty much. I sprayed some bed liner on it, some truck bed liner, just to kind of help with the grip. And then this was the first attempt. This was Avila in the morning, and it was just very foggy. It's my first time ever out, so I was a little weary. But eventually, just the fog cleared up a little bit, and I decided if I don't get in now, is maybe around 10:30, 11 a.m. If I don't get in now, I'm not going to get in at all. I'm not going to have time. It's about a 3-hour drive. Almost lost the kayak right here. Just, never doing it before. And the rudder's not down for obvious reasons. It's too shallow, so it doesn't cut through the water quite as well. So you really have to grip it and make sure you're steering it in the right direction. It will very easily swing back and forth and get away from you. Then just timing it right. The surf was really, really small. I wasn't too worried. And then kind of easily just got out. Engaged the drive system. It was plenty deep at that point. And the rudder. And just got out. My plan was to head south and to fish around the kelp beds near the Avila caves. And the water was just glass. Right here, I started to get some staticky Coast Guard messages and alerts. It was the normal weather report, but I also got some sort of report about gale force winds. And yeah, that was part of the reason I ended up leaving a little earlier today. I confused the dates. It was actually the next day, but I couldn't really hear. It was very staticky. I was able to fix that later on my second trip, the issue with the static. So several casts, and just getting a lot of bait fish biting, and that's where I made my biggest mistake. Is once I saw that the bait fish were biting the schmelt, I should have just switched to normal hooks and smaller hooks and different bait to catch those bait fish, and then switch to the bait fish. Right here I get hooked up on some kelp. I was having that issue a lot too. And I tried several techniques to, moving around, trying to put lots of tension on it, and then opening up, releasing the line to try to get it loose. And eventually, though, it unfortunately, I think right here, just breaks off on me. Yeah, and just I had a break off, and I lost that one. So I ended up packing it in. I got foggy again. More of that gale force message from the Coast Guard, and it was still staticky, and I couldn't really understand what they were saying. Out there by myself, and just trying to be safe. Again, it was my first time ever out in the ocean, so I'd rather be safe. I'd rather be wrong on land than wrong out there. My second attempt back at Avila, and I launched from the other side of the pier, which was so much easier getting my kayak there. I can't believe I didn't notice that it just leads to the beach. I had to walk it downstairs before. I had a local come up to me and recommend that I don't launch, because the surf wasn't even that high, but it was a bit higher. But I decided not to. He was trying to get me to go to and then I just jump out right here. He was trying to get me to go to a boat launch several miles north that he didn't exactly know what it was called. I didn't know where it was, and it would take me a long time to get everything all set up. So I just kept hopping in and hopping out. It's not too hard for me to do because I had solid ground. A little more dramatic than it actually was. And I just ultimately decided, despite him warning me and I know he's doing it out of a good place. He's just trying to keep me safe. I decided I could handle it. And I got out. Yeah. And again, this day was glass as well. It's pretty glassy, pretty still waters. And I met this super cool gentleman who was just giving me some fishing tips. And back out to that same spot I was at before. You can kind of see the water's getting a bit more choppy. Just as the day went on and as the afternoon came in, it just started to get a lot more choppy. So this wasn't as bad as it got. This was just happened to be when I was recording. It got a little bit worse than this. Still not too bad. I could have stayed out, but I was camping with some friends, so I needed to be back. I couldn't be out there all day, and so I just decided to pack it in. Empty-handed yet again. The third attempt here was with a buddy. We went to Morro Bay. He used my inflatable kayak. It was his first time out too. This was a bit into the day. It was pretty uneventful. I had a local. We went further in to the Bay of Morro Bay, and a local recommended if I was going for ling cod, which was, I don't know why I was so stuck on ling cod, but I was. I just really wanted to catch one. A local recommended I go try underneath these. And then this lady right here, super nice. She kind of gave me some tips too. She owned a boat on this dock, and her dog was her pup was adorable. He was just trying to jump into my kayak the entire. He was hoping I was going to grab him and let him in, and I totally would have, but it's not mine. And puppy napping is not okay. Never okay. So yeah, she had recommended if I was going for halibut to try in between the boats. And so I did a couple casts. I switched to the pre-hooked artificial little octopus lure I had, and I used the white because she said that the white grubs worked pretty well. So I just kept getting hung up, like every single cast. Not a single cast where I wouldn't get that grassy, I don't know what kind of kelp or seaweed it is, but I just kept getting hooked up on that. Really irritating. Then I went back underneath there with that same white octopus lure, and ultimately couldn't get anything. So packed it in, and then right here, my buddy started to pull it up, and I hadn't put up the drive system yet. And so it bashed into the dock there, but nothing was damaged. It was mostly my fault anyway, because I should have already had done that before pulling it around over here. So yeah, I mostly just learned a lot of things from these 3 trips. I learned a lot of what not to do and what I'd do differently next time. I definitely want to revisit the spoon. I didn't even bother using it, obviously, because I wasn't confident in it at all. So next time, hopefully, I'll be able to cook something up. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and if you liked it, like it, subscribe, or don't. It's all good either way. Have a good one.